It takes a lot of effort to bring you these stories, and I'd really appreciate your support. All I ask from you is a like and subscribe. Thank you. If you can hear this, you're still alive, and that means something. It means a lot. You're listening to Station 98.3. Name's Adam Carter. Not that names carry the same weight they used to, but it's what I've got. I'm broadcasting from an old ranger station, somewhere deep in what used to be the Midwest. Signal's weak, power's running off a jury-rigged setup, and I never know how much longer I'll be able to keep this thing going. But as long as I can, I will. Because silence is worse. Because maybe someone out there needs to hear a voice, to know they're not the last one left. Maybe you've got nowhere to go, or maybe you're just looking for proof that people are still out there fighting. Either way, I'll be here, talking into the void, hoping someone's listening. The rain hasn't stopped for days. The kind that seeps into your bones, makes everything heavier, makes every step a slog through the mud. It's the season for it, I guess. Used to love the rain, back when it meant a cozy night in with a book or a lazy Sunday morning. Now it's just another challenge. Wet clothes mean cold nights. Cold nights mean slower hands, slower thinking. And out here, slow means the end for you. The only upside is that the rotters aren't moving as fast either. Waterlogged, stumbling through the muck. Almost pitiful if they weren't still trying to tear us apart. I heard from someone a while back who made it out of New York City. Said it wasn't just a city falling. It was civilization itself crumbling in real time. It started with strange attacks, people acting violently, then suddenly collapsing. Authorities told people to stay indoors, that it was under control. But fear spreads faster than any virus. As soon as the first reports of major outbreaks hit the news, panic set in. Grocery stores were looted, hospitals were overwhelmed, and police were powerless against the rising chaos. The first few days were madness. People packed whatever they could carry, piling into their cars, trying to escape. Families torn apart in the rush, desperate to reach someplace safer. But the city wasn't designed for a mass exodus. The bridges became bottlenecks. Highways turned into graveyards of abandoned vehicles, some still filled with those who never made it out. The military moved in, setting up checkpoints, trying to contain the infection. But the infected didn't wait in line, didn't follow evacuation orders. They swarmed, wave after relentless wave, overrunning barricades, tearing through crowds of civilians and soldiers alike. The sound of gunfire mixed with screams, then silence. Then the city burned. Some survivors went underground, hiding in subway tunnels, but those quickly became death traps. Others tried to take to the rooftops, hoping to wait it out. A few made it out by boat, smart ones. But New York's gone now. Just a husk. Not all the news is bad. A guy I spoke to a couple weeks back, his name is Ray. He's got a good thing going in Montana. Before everything went to hell, Ray was just another cog in the machine, working long hours at an IT job he barely cared about. I spent years staring at a screen, he told me, chasing deadlines that didn't mean a damn thing. Then the world collapsed, and suddenly none of that mattered. I had to start over. And you know what? I think I like this life better. Ray didn't just survive, he thrived. The mountains in Montana work in his favor. Fewer people meant fewer infected. The cold keeps them sluggish, and the terrain itself is a natural defense. He found an old ranger station, reinforced it with logs, scrap metal, and anything he could scavenge. Now it's a damn fortress. Walls, watchtowers, even a system of traps around the perimeter. Said he spent weeks figuring out how to catch game, how to smoke meat, how to make what little he had last. He's hunting, trapping, even growing a little food when the weather allows. Ray's proof that you can still carve out a life, even in this hellscape. If he can do it, so can you. And if you find yourself near the Bitterroot Mountains in Montana, maybe you'll come across Ray. Maybe he can help you out. Maybe, just maybe, you'll find a way to build something safer, something lasting. A community, even. It's not impossible. He's proof of that. If you're somewhere rural, take a page from Ray's book. High ground, visibility, water source. Think long term. If you've made it this far, you already know water is king. Food, ammo, shelter, none of it means a damn thing if you don't have clean water. I've seen too many people make the same mistake. They hoard canned food, stockpile weapons, but forget the most basic necessity. You can last weeks without food, but only days without water. And dehydration, it creeps up on you. By the time you feel it, you're already in trouble. If you're near a river, running water's safer than stagnant. Boil everything. If you don't have fire, charcoal and sand can help with filtration, but boiling is best. And as for rainwater, collect it when you can. Set up tarps, buckets, anything to catch it. But remember, just because it fell from the sky doesn't mean it's clean. Filter and boil it. Avoid drinking from puddles or lakes if you don't know what's been in them. Last thing you need is to survive the dead just to get wiped out by dysentery or parasites. And if you're in the city, pipes might still have some water left, but don't count on it being clean. Check old water heaters, bathtubs, even toilet tanks, top part, not the bowl. Desperate times call for desperate measures, but always, always purify. Without water, nothing else matters. Don't let thirst be the thing that takes you out. Another day down, another day survived. That's all we can do, one more day at a time. But survival isn't just about getting through today. It's about believing in tomorrow. Every sunrise means another chance, another fight, another step forward. I know it's hard. I know the nights feel endless. But if you're still here, still listening, it means you haven't given up. And as long as we keep pushing forward, there's hope. Hope for something better, for a future worth fighting for. If you're hearing this, that means we made it another day. You, me, whoever's still out there. And that means we've still got a chance. This is Adam Carter, broadcasting from station 98.3. The rain hasn't let up in days. It used to be a background noise, a thing you barely noticed when you had four walls and a solid roof over your head. Now, it's something else entirely. It turns dirt roads into rivers of mud, fills your boots with water until your feet are raw, and soaks every layer of clothing no matter how well you think you've prepared. It messes with your mind too. The endless drumming on whatever shelter you can find, the way it drowns out every other sound. Footsteps, breathing, the low groan of something that isn't supposed to be alive anymore. And the cold that comes with it, that's worse. It's not like the sharp, biting cold of winter. It's slow, creeping, stealing your strength hour by hour until your hands are too numb to grip your knife, too sluggish to pull the trigger if you have to. I had to shift things around yesterday. Water was pooling in places I didn't expect, creeping in through cracks I hadn't noticed before. Thought this station would hold up better, but time and weather have a way of breaking things down. It's funny. You prepare for the dead or the desperate, but sometimes it's the little things that get you. A leak in your shelter, a fire that won't start, the slow rot of your gear when it never gets the chance to dry. Survival isn't just fighting, it's enduring. And speaking of enduring, I heard something yesterday, something about what's happening down south. I got word from a survivor, someone who came up from Texas, said it was bad down there, worse than bad. Houston fell fast, no containment, no hope of evacuation. The highways were packed, people trying to escape west, north, anywhere but there. At first, the National Guard tried to hold the line, but it didn't last. Cities burned hot, and Houston turned into a furnace. Fires broke out, some from desperate people trying to torch the infected, others from riots and explosions. But it wasn't the fire that did the most damage, it was the flood. A hurricane hit the Gulf just days after the infection spread. No warning, no preparation, just walls of water slamming into a city already crumbling. What wasn't burned got drowned. The infected didn't care. They don't breathe, don't panic, but people do. Some survivors made it out. Some found higher ground. But the coast? It's not safe. Not anymore. But not every story ends in fire and flood. Some people are still out there making it work. There's a family I've been hearing about, don't know their names, but they've been moving. Started in Colorado, made their way through Kansas, and last I heard, they were heading toward the Dakotas. A man, his wife, and 2 kids, young ones. Most people would say dragging kids through this world is suicide, but not them. They've got a system, a reinforced RV, full-fledged gear, a route mapped out based on supply caches they set up when things first started going bad. He was military, knew what was coming before the rest of us did. He planned, stockpiled, and now they're surviving. More than that, they're living, teaching their kids how to trap, how to forage, how to shoot if they have to. In some ways, they might be better off than they were before all this. Back then, people were walking around like zombies already, glued to their screens, lost in their routines, barely even talking to each other. Now, at least they're living, learning, connecting in a way the world forgot how to do. If you see an old RV painted over to dull the shine, windows reinforced with scrap metal, and a faded American flag painted onto the back door, that would be them. If you spot it on the road, they might just be the kind of people you want to know. With all this rain, fire's been on my mind. You don't think about it much before everything goes to hell. Flip a switch, and there it is. But now, fire is life. I've seen good people lose their life just because they couldn't get warm. Cold weakens you, makes you slow, makes you careless. You slip, you can't move fast enough, you can't fight back when the dead come knocking. So, here's what you do. If you got matches or a lighter, great. Keep them dry always. Wrap them in plastic, Tuck them inside your clothes where body heat keeps them warm. No matches, no problem. Steel wool and a battery, touch the terminals and you'll get a spark. Flint and steel if you can find it. Even a magnifying glass if you've got patience and sunlight. But the real trick isn't starting the fire, it's keeping it going. Dry wood is key, and in this rain it's hard to come by. Look for dead branches still attached to trees. They won't be as soaked as the ones on the ground. Strip off the wet bark, dig into the dry core. Birch bark burns even when it's damp, and pine sap is nature's lighter fluid. If you can, build a heat reflector, stack stones or logs behind your fire to push the warmth back toward you. And never, ever sleep too close to the flames. Waking up with a burned out shelter or worse, not a mistake you make twice. I picked up something interesting on the radio today. One of those whispers that passes from survivor to survivor. Supposedly, there's a safe zone up north, somewhere past the Great Lakes near the border. Word is, it's not just a ragtag group of people holding out in some old building. No, this one's different. They say military remnants set it up. Real defenses, real supplies. A place that's actually secure. A place taking people in. I don't know if it's true. Could be a beacon of hope or just another ghost story, but I've been hearing about it from more than one source, and that's enough to make me wonder. I won't tell you to chase it, but I won't tell you to ignore it either. Just be careful. If it's real, it could change everything. But if it's not, well, we all know how cruel false hope can be. It's easy to feel like the world ended. In some ways it did. But as long as there's someone out there still moving, still fighting, it's not over. Maybe you're alone right now. Maybe you haven't seen another living person in weeks. But you're not the only one left. The world as we knew it is gone, but that doesn't mean we have to be. Every day we keep pushing forward, every fire we light, every step we take, it all means something. We're more than just survivors. We're what's left of humanity, and we still have a choice in what that means. So keep going, keep fighting, keep looking for something more than just another day survived. Because if we let go of that, we're already dead. And if you hear me, you're not alone. If you're hearing this, it means we made it another day. You, me, whoever else is still out there, and that means we've still got a chance. This is Adam Carter, broadcasting from station 98.3. Signal's holding for now, and that's good enough. But last night was strange. I thought I saw someone. Just a shadow moving between the trees. Called out, but nothing. Just the rain and the wind. Maybe my mind's playing tricks on me. Maybe I just want to believe I'm not the only one left. A few days ago, I mentioned a rumor, a supposed safe zone up north, somewhere past the Great Lakes near the border. Word was military remnants had set up a secure compound, taking in survivors, offering protection. I didn't want to believe in it too much, but hope is a hard thing to ignore. I heard an update yesterday, and it's not good. Survivors who went looking for it never came back. The few that turned around before getting there, they said it was a trap. Someone, maybe a group, was broadcasting the signal, luring people in. And when they got close, the only thing waiting for them was death. Not from the infected, but from the living. It's a cruel trick, but I guess hope makes people desperate. And desperate people make easy targets. If you're hearing this, if you're heading north hoping to find safety, turn back. There's nothing there but a lie. I used to have more people to talk to. A few survivors I'd check in with, people on different channels, voices I could count on. But one by one, they started going quiet. Some moved on, some probably just ran out of power. Others, I think I already know what happened to them. There was a guy, Caleb, lived out near the Mississippi River, had a little cabin, kept to himself. We talked every other day. He had a dog, some kind of mutt. Said she was the only reason he hadn't lost his mind. We'd trade stories, talk about the old world, movies we missed, music we wish we could still hear. He had this dry sense of humor, always found a way to crack a joke, even when things were bad. Last I heard from him, he said something didn't feel right. That the woods were quieter than usual. Too quiet. He said he'd check back in the next day, and that was 2 weeks ago. I still try his frequency sometimes. Nothing. Maybe he moved on. Maybe I'm just fooling myself. Maybe he just became another ghost in this world. And the worst part? I keep thinking about his damn dog. What happened to her? Is she still out there waiting for him to come home? Or did she end up alone, just another lost soul in a world drowning in them? I get the idea of staying put, finding a place, fortifying it, waiting for things to blow over. Hell, that's what I thought this station would be. But the truth is, staying in one place too long, it's dangerous. The dead might be slow, but they're persistent. Stay in one place and sooner or later they'll find you. And it's not just them. People are watching. Scavengers. Desperate survivors who'll do anything to make it one more day. So, if you've got a base, good, but don't get comfortable. Keep alternate exits open. Rotate sleeping spots. Have an escape plan. And if you get even the slightest feeling that something's off, trust it. Your gut will save you more than any weapon ever will. It's hard to get news about the rest of the world, but I do pick up bits and pieces. From what I've gathered, Europe was hit just as hard as we were. The major cities, London, Paris, Berlin, they collapsed fast. Too many people, too few ways out. But some places are still holding on. There's word that a group in the Swiss Alps managed to set up a refuge high up where the infected can't easily reach. They've got food, water, even power from old hydro stations. I don't know how long they can keep it up, but they're surviving. Japan, though, that's a mystery. No signals, no broadcasts, nothing. Either they cut themselves off, or there's no one left to send a message. Some say they managed to contain it, that their island status gave them a fighting chance. Others think it's gone completely silent because there's nothing left. As for the Middle East, I keep hearing about a stronghold deep in the desert, maybe somewhere in Saudi Arabia or Jordan, a place where the infected can't reach because of the heat, the terrain. Someone said the Bedouins are the ones who made it work, using their deep knowledge of the land to stay one step ahead of the dead. If anyone could survive out there, it'd be them. It's a harsh life, but at least it's life. Here's something unsettling. People have been saying the dead are changing, that they're not just shambling around aimlessly anymore, that they're watching, waiting, moving in patterns. I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard enough stories to take it seriously. Packs of them circling a location for days, like they know someone's inside. Others acting like they're learning, moving faster, using their hands more. And I don't want to believe it. I want to think they're just telling stories to scare each other. But I've survived this long by not ignoring the things I don't want to believe. So if you've seen something, if you've noticed anything, be careful. The rules we thought we knew, they might not apply anymore. There's not much left in this world that feels real, feels solid. But you've got to hold on to something, a reason to keep going, a voice on the radio, the promise of another sunrise. Whatever it is, don't let go of it. Be here as long as I can, talking, listening, hoping that somewhere out there someone is hearing this. If you hear me, stay safe, stay alive. The rain's been coming down steady since last night, the kind that seeps into everything, your clothes, your bones, until the whole world feels heavier, slower, or maybe that's just me. I wasn't planning on sharing this. I'm not the kind of guy who spills personal stories, but lately, talking like this, letting some of it out, it helps keep my mind steady. There's another reason I hate the rain, a reason that goes all the way back to the beginning of this whole nightmare, back to when the world still had time to fall apart piece by piece, when we still thought we had a chance to hold it together. My wife, Sarah, she loved the rain, said it made the world feel clean, like it was washing everything away so it could start fresh. We used to sit by the window and watch the storms roll in, listen to the steady rhythm against the glass. I can still hear her laugh when I close my eyes, the way she'd lift her face to the sky and let the drops run down her cheeks like she was drinking it all in. I lost her early. When everything started falling apart, we thought we could wait it out. Barricaded the doors, rationed supplies, made a plan. But plans don't mean much when the world doesn't play fair. She got sick. Not the virus, something else. And there were no hospitals left to help, no doctors to call, just me, holding her hand, whispering promises I couldn't keep. I buried her out back when the ground was still soft, before the world turned to ice and fire. Now, every time it rains, I sit and listen, just like we used to. But it's not the same. The world didn't start fresh like she thought it would. It just kept rotting. And yet, somehow, I keep going. Maybe because she'd want me to. Maybe because I don't know what else to do. If you're out there and you've still got someone, hold on to them. Don't waste a second. Because one day, you'll find yourself listening to the rain, wishing you'd had more time. There's another thing that can come for you on days like this, and that's hypothermia. It doesn't care if it's summer. It'll creep in if you stay wet too long, especially at night. If you're on the move, make sure you've got something waterproof. A tarp, a poncho, even garbage bags if that's all you can find. Keep your feet dry. Trench foot isn't just a problem from history books. It can kill you just as easily now. And for the love of whatever you still believe in, don't drink straight from the rain. You don't know what's in it. Filter it, boil it, or let it sit for a while before you even think about drinking. The last thing you need is to get sick with no way to treat it. It's difficult to get any news from across the ocean, but I got a transmission last night from somewhere in London. His signal was weak, but his story was clear. He says the city's barely recognizable now. Burned-out husks of buildings, streets choked with wreckage, bodies left where they fell. But some survivors made it underground. The old subway tunnels became their shelter, their fortress. They've walled off sections, turned train cars into bunkers, even rigged some of the old emergency lights to give them just enough glow to see without drawing too much attention. Food's scarce, water's harder, but they've lasted this long, and if they've made it, maybe others have too. Maybe you're not as alone as you think. That's it for today. If you're still listening, still breathing, keep going. Hold on to the ones who matter. And if you're out there under the rain, I hope you've got someone to share it with. The fog rolled in sometime before dawn, thick enough that I couldn't see past the tree line. It swallowed the world, turning everything into shifting shadows. Normally, I'd welcome the cover, but today, it's different. There's a feeling in my gut I can't shake, like something's out there, watching. Maybe it's just the paranoia talking. Maybe it's not. I've learned to trust that instinct. It saved my life more than once. I heard something today. Something that, if it's true, could change everything. A voice on an old frequency. Weak, distant, but real. It talked about a ship. Not just any ship, but a vessel big enough to carry survivors, moving between the coasts, picking up those who can reach the shore. A floating refuge, away from the hordes, away from the ruins of the old world. The way the voice spoke, it didn't sound like desperate hope. It sounded like certainty, and that's dangerous. Hope is a powerful thing, but it can also be a trap. How many people have already gone chasing something like this, only to never return? I don't know much about the ship itself. No name, no coordinates, no real proof that it exists. Just a voice on the airwaves speaking in short bursts before the static swallowed it up again. The person on the other end sounded calm, assured, like they'd seen it with their own eyes. A ship that never stays in one place for too long, never docks for too long, always moving, always just beyond reach. It's hard to tell if something like that is real or if it's just another story passed around by desperate people. But I want to believe it is. We need something to believe in. Maybe it's a lie. Maybe it's bait. Maybe it's just a ghost signal, repeating a message from a past long gone. But what if it's not? What if, out there in the ruins of all we lost, someone actually managed to start over? I don't know if that voice will come through again, or if the ship is real, or just another story we tell ourselves to keep going. But if you're listening, I wanted you to hear it too. Sometimes hope is all we have left, even if it turns out to be a mirage. That said, hope alone won't keep you alive. Over the months, I've picked up a lot from survivors who figured out how to stay one step ahead of the dead. Some swear by different tricks, some make sense, others sound like pure luck. But there are a few patterns that seem to hold up. Stay quiet. Sounds draw them in like moths to a flame. Gunfire, shouting, even footsteps on the wrong kind of ground. Soft shoes, slow movements, and no unnecessary sound. That's the way to go. Mask your scent. This one I've heard from multiple people. The dead hunt by smell, too. Some folks swear by mud, coating themselves in it to throw off the scent. Others burn certain herbs or wood to cover human smell. If you've got the means, try it. use decoys. Some survivors have rigged up wind chimes far from their camp to lure the dead away. Others set off flares or firecrackers when they need to slip past a group. Trick their instincts and you might just get a few extra seconds to live. Stay high, stay hidden. Rooftops, trees, hills, anything that puts distance between you and them is an advantage. The dead aren't climbers, not like we are. If you can get to high ground, you've got a chance. If you've got tricks of your own, if you've figured out something that works, and you can reach me, share it. We survive by learning from each other. The fog reminds me of the early days. Back when I was still with a group. Back when I still had a reason to believe we could outlast this thing together. There was a man named Ellis. He used to joke that he had more lives than a cat. No matter what we ran into, he always made it out, grinning like he had some kind of secret the rest of us didn't. One night, we were moving through the woods, trying to avoid a horde. The fog was thick, just like this. We lost sight of him for maybe 10 seconds, just 10 seconds. And then we heard it. His voice, calling out, confused, scared, then screaming. By the time we got to him, all that was left was the sound of the dead tearing something apart. The fog takes people, just like the dark, just like the rain. It swallows them whole. But not every story ends that way. I picked up a transmission earlier, a woman's voice. Strong, determined. She's out there, leading a group, keeping them alive. She wouldn't say where, but she wanted to send a message to anyone still listening. Don't give up. No matter what you've lost, no matter what's hunting you, keep going. There's a future past this, but only if we fight for it. Maybe she's right. Maybe survival isn't just about avoiding death. Maybe it's about holding on to something worth living for. I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't know if this fog will lift or if the things hiding in it will come closer. But if you're listening, stay sharp, stay moving. And if you've got someone out there, hold on to them. Until next time, stay safe, stay alive. The radio crackled to life last night. Not just static, not just a broken signal bouncing off dead towers, an actual voice. And not just any voice, it was familiar. I don't know if it was a trick of the frequency, some old recording replaying on a loop, or if somehow, against all odds, it was real. But for a few brief seconds, I swear I heard Daniel. He was one of the first people I lost contact with when the world fell apart. We used to check in, regular as clockwork, every few nights on an old emergency frequency. Then, one day, nothing. Silence. I figured he was gone, like so many others. But last night, through the hiss of static, I heard his name. This is Daniel. If you're out there, then the signal cut. I don't know where he is, or if it was even really him. Maybe I'm just clinging to ghosts. But if there's a chance, even the smallest one, that he made it, I need to keep listening. I've been hearing more about what's happening beyond our borders, though it's hard to separate fact from rumor. This one, though, it comes from multiple sources. Canada's got pockets of survivors, mostly up north where the cold slows the dead. The problem is, it slows people too. Supplies are scarce, and the wildlife is just as much a threat as the infected. One guy I heard from swears there's a community in an old mining town, deep in the Yukon. Says they've got a working hydroelectric dam, enough power to keep lights on and radios running, but they don't trust outsiders. Can't say I blame them. One story stood out, though, something that almost doesn't seem possible. A group of trappers, real old-school types, supposedly took down a whole pack of infected using nothing but spears and hunting knives. Said they worked together, took them one by one, using the terrain to their advantage. I don't know if it's true, but if it is, there are people out there still fighting, still adapting, still winning. I've been thinking a lot about what survival really means. Not just breathing, not just making it to the next sunrise, but staying human. Because out here, it's easy to forget what that even feels like. I've talked to people who've done things they never thought they'd be capable of. Stealing from other survivors, leaving the wounded behind. Worse. I don't judge them. I can't. None of us know what we do until we're forced to choose between living and dying. But there's a line. I don't know exactly where it is, but I know when someone's crossed it. You can see it in their eyes. The ones who've stopped seeing people as people, who only see threats, competition, obstacles. I don't have a perfect answer for how to keep that from happening, but I do know this. Find something to hold on to. A routine, a memory, a promise to someone you lost. Even something small, like a song you hum to yourself at night or a prayer you whisper, even if you're not sure anyone's listening. It's the little things that keep us from becoming just another kind of monster. There was a man I met months ago, back when I was moving between towns. He was holed up in an old gas station living off canned goods and rainwater. At first, I thought he was alone. He wasn't. He had a woman with him, or at least what was left of her. She turned, her skin gray, eyes vacant. He tied her up, kept her restrained. Said he couldn't let her go. Said she was still in there somewhere. I tried to talk to him, tried to make him see reason. He wouldn't hear it. He fed her, talked to her, told me she still recognized him deep down. I left the next morning. I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. A week later, I passed through that area again. The gas station was open. The door was torn off the hinges, and all the walls were covered in crimson. But for every story like that, there's another one that reminds me why we keep fighting. I heard from a kid yesterday. Couldn't have been older than 16. He found a working radio, managed to rig up a battery to call out. Said he's been on his own since the start. Lost his family, lost everything, but he's still going. Said he found an old library, been reading every book he can get his hands on. Teaching himself everything. How to purify water, how to grow food, even how to fix up old electronics. Said he's not just surviving, he's preparing. "You think we can come back from this?" he asked me. I wanted to tell him the truth, that I don't know, that some days it feels impossible, but I couldn't. Instead, I told him, as long as people like you are still out there, we have a chance. I don't know if Daniel's really alive. I don't know if that kid will make it. I don't know if the world will ever be more than ruins and ghosts. But I do know this, I'll keep listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay alive. There's smoke in the sky tonight. Thick, black, stretching high above the trees like something's still burning. It's too far to tell what started it. A camp gone wrong? A fuel depot finally catching fire after sitting abandoned for too long? A last stand that didn't go the way someone hoped? I don't know. Fires like that are either a warning or a beacon, and neither one is good. If it was an accident, someone's dead. If it was intentional, someone's sending a message. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just the world still burning, one ember at a time. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I heard something today. Another whisper of a place where people are still making things work. It's not the first time I've heard a rumor like this, and I've learned to be skeptical. But this one keeps coming up. Different people, different sources, all talking about the same thing. A town, somewhere out west, where they've got walls, crops, even electricity. A real community. Could be real, could be another trap, another graveyard where desperate people go hoping to find something worth living for. I'll keep listening. Maybe I'll hear more. Maybe someone out there has been there, seen it with their own eyes. If you have, if you know anything, let me know. People need hope, but more than that, they need the truth. I've shared a lot of survival tricks over the last few days, things I've heard, things I've learned the hard way. But today, I want to pass on something different. The best advice I ever got. It wasn't about weapons or food or shelter. It was about trust. Before the world ended, I met an old guy, real quiet type, spent more time with his dog than with people. I asked him once why he didn't talk much. He just smiled and said, "A man with nothing to lose is dangerous. A man who trusts too easily is dead." Back then, I didn't really get it. Thought he was just another loner, one of those survivalist types who never liked people much to begin with. Now, I think about those words every time I meet someone new. I'm not saying you can't trust anyone. We survive by sticking together. But trust is like ammo. You don't waste it, and you don't give it away to just anyone. You choose carefully, and when you do, you hold on to those people like your life depends on it. Because one day, it will. There was a guy I used to talk to back in the early days. I don't even know his real name. Everyone just called him Breaker because he was always breaking into old frequencies, picking up lost transmissions, trying to make sense of the chaos. He was obsessed with maps, signals, anything that might tell him where people were still holding out. He believed if he could just find the right frequency, the right survivors, he could help rebuild something. I used to check in with him. Trade information, pass on what I heard. Then, one night, he stopped responding. A few weeks later, I met a guy on the road, said he passed through Breaker's last known location, said the place was trashed, crimson on the walls, radio smashed to pieces. I don't know if it was the dead or the living that got to him first, but I do know this. He was trying to do something good. He was trying to connect people. And that's worth remembering. I've been hearing some unsettling stories lately. People saying the dead aren't just wandering anymore, they're waiting. One survivor swears he saw a group of them just standing there, not moving, like they were listening for something. Said he watched for nearly an hour before one of them suddenly turned and walked away, like it had decided to. That doesn't make sense. They don't think, they don't plan. At least, that's what we've always believed. But if they're changing, if they're learning? I don't like where that thought leads. There was a man I ran into a while back. His name was Carter. He told me something that stuck with me. Before the outbreak, he was supposed to die. Terminal cancer. Doctors gave him 6 months, a year if he was lucky. He went through all the stages: denial, anger, grief. He made peace with it. Then the world ended. No more hospitals, no more chemo, no more doctors telling him he was living on borrowed time. And just like that, he got a second chance. But here's the thing. He didn't want it. He was ready to go. He'd made peace with his fate, and now he was stuck in a nightmare he wasn't supposed to survive. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't angry. He just didn't know what to do with himself. Said he felt like he was living on the wrong side of fate. The last time I saw him, he was heading west. Said he was looking for something worth fighting for. The fire in the distance is still glowing. That means something's still burning. I don't know what's out there. I don't know if it's worth fearing or hoping for. But I do know this. Whatever it is, it means we're not alone. Until next time, stay safe, stay alive. I couldn't let it go. The fire. It was still burning at sunrise, and something in me wouldn't shut up until I got a closer look. So I went. Stupid? Probably. But sometimes curiosity is just another way of pretending you still care. I took the long way around, staying quiet, staying low. By the time I got close, most of it had burned out. Just a husk of what was there before. But I saw enough to piece it together. Someone had made a stand. There were bodies, fresh ones, some human, some not. The dead must have swarmed them, and instead of running, they burned everything down around them. Maybe it was a desperate attempt to take out as many as possible. Maybe it was a signal. One final message to the world saying, we were here, we fought. Or maybe they just didn't want to be eaten alive. I don't know who they were. I don't know if anyone made it out. All I know is that the fire wasn't an accident. It was a choice, a warning, or maybe just an ending. For days now, I've been talking about that ship. The one that was supposed to be a floating refuge, moving up and down the coast, picking up survivors. I found out the truth. It was real. Once. I tracked down someone who claimed they saw it. A guy named Vic, half-starved, traveling alone, but his eyes were sharp, his story clear. He said the ship existed, but not the way the rumors made it sound. It wasn't a safe haven. It wasn't picking people up. It was staying away. Vic swears he saw them. People on the deck, armed to the teeth, watching the shore through scopes, scanning the ruins like they were checking for threats. He tried to signal them, tried to get their attention. They didn't respond. And then, after a few minutes, they turned, disappeared into the mist like they were never there. I don't know who they were, what they were doing, or why they refused to help. Maybe they're just another group of survivors who don't trust anyone. Maybe they've got their own rules, their own fears. Or maybe they're hiding something worse. So, if you've heard the rumors, if you were planning on heading to the coast looking for salvation, don't. Some ships don't rescue people. They just drift, ghosts in the water, pretending the world beneath them doesn't exist. I don't want to leave things on that note. Not today. Because for once, I've got something good to share. A few nights ago, I got a message. A voice broken by static calling out for someone named Lily. A man, desperate, saying he'd lost her in the chaos, saying he didn't know if she was alive or dead, but if she was out there, he was waiting at the old church in Grafton. I didn't think much of it at first. Too many voices lost in the dark, too many names I'll never hear again. But today, I heard them. Not just her, both of them, together. Lily made it. She found him, or maybe he found her. I don't know the details, and I don't need them. What matters is that I heard their voices, no longer calling into the dark, but speaking to each other. Relief, joy, disbelief, it was all there, spilling out between words. And then, before the signal faded, I heard something I haven't heard in a long, long time. Laughter. Not the kind that comes from madness or exhaustion. Not the hollow kind people use to cover up fear. Real laughter. A father and daughter together again. In a world where everything seems to break apart, something came back together. The fire is out now. The bodies left behind will be dust before long. The ship will keep moving, untouchable, unreachable. But somewhere out there, in the ruins of everything, a father and daughter survived. And that's enough to keep going. And if they can find each other again after everything, then maybe, just maybe, there's still hope for the rest of us. Maybe there are still reunions waiting to happen. Maybe not every lost voice is gone forever. Maybe, despite everything, we haven't run out of chances yet. So, if you're out there, if you're still fighting, keep going. You don't know who might be trying to find their way back to you. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and stay alive. This is Adam Carter, broadcasting from Station 98.3. The wind's been picking up lately, the kind that rattles the windows and makes the trees groan like they're carrying too much weight. It's got me thinking about the road, about moving on. You stay in one place too long, you start thinking you're safe. That's a mistake. The world doesn't stop shifting just because you want it to. And lately, I've been feeling it shift under my feet. I don't know when, I don't know where to, but sooner or later, this station won't be mine anymore. I managed to catch bits and pieces of a broadcast from the East Coast, Boston, or what's left of it. A group calling themselves the Beacon Collective has taken over part of the city, barricaded a whole district, and set up defenses that actually seem to be holding. They're organized, disciplined. If their stories are true, they've even got a working hydroponics system pulling food from places that shouldn't be able to grow anything anymore. But there's another side to it. People say they don't let just anyone in, that they've got rules, strict ones. And if you don't fit their definition of useful, you don't make it past the gates. Maybe that's how they've survived this long. Maybe that's just another kind of death sentence. Either way, it's proof that some people are still fighting to build something instead of just surviving in the ruins. There was something last night, something in the static. I leave my radio on when I sleep, if you can call it sleeping anymore. And just before dawn, I heard something. Not words, not a transmission, just a sound. Low, steady, pulsing like a heartbeat. I don't know if it was interference. I don't know if my mind was playing tricks on me, but it felt intentional, like someone somewhere was trying to reach out. I'll keep listening. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. If I do leave, I'll have to be careful. And if you're thinking about moving, you should be too. Here's what I've picked up about traveling without drawing too much attention. Stay low, keep your profile small, don't walk in the open, hug the walls, move through cover, and never silhouette yourself against the skyline. Avoid main roads. If you think a road is safe, chances are someone else does too. And not everyone left in this world is friendly. Watch your step. Broken glass, loose gravel, even dry leaves, anything that makes noise can be the difference between getting away clean or never getting away at all. Move at dusk or dawn. The dead aren't the only danger. People are, and people don't see as well in low light. Travel light. You bring too much, you slow yourself down. Carry only what you need and know what you can afford to leave behind. I don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. Maybe I'll still be here. Maybe I won't, but I can feel it coming. A change, a choice, and whatever it is, I have to be ready. If you're listening, stay safe, stay sharp, and if you're standing at your own crossroads, trust yourself to take the right step. Until next time. This is Adam Carter again, broadcasting as usual from station 98.3. A storm rolled in out of nowhere today. One minute, the sky was just heavy with clouds, and the next, the wind was howling through the trees, rain hammering against the roof. It's the kind of storm that makes travel impossible. Roads turn into rivers, visibility dropping to nothing. If I'd left earlier, maybe I'd be out there right now, trying to find shelter in the chaos. But instead, I'm here. Looks like I'm staying put, at least until this blows over. Maybe it's just a storm. Or maybe it's the world's way of reminding me that no matter how much we plan, how careful we are, there will always be something we can't control. You can run, you can hide, but sooner or later, something catches up with you. I haven't talked about him before. Maybe I didn't want to, or maybe I just wasn't ready. But tonight, with the storm raging outside, it feels like the right time. My father. He wasn't a perfect man, but he was my father. And just like this storm came out of nowhere, so did the day I lost him. It was a regular afternoon. He was supposed to pick me up from school. We had plans to get burgers, talk about whatever nonsense was on my mind back then, but he never showed. One minute, he was on the road, driving like he always had. The next, he was gone. A collision, a moment of bad luck, no warning, no goodbyes, just a phone call that shattered everything. I spent years wondering what I'd say to him if I had one more day. I used to think I'd ask him all the things I never got to. But now, after everything, I think I'd just sit with him in silence. Just knowing he was there would be enough. It's strange what the end of the world does to grief. At first, it felt like everything I lost before the outbreak didn't matter anymore, but it does. Because loss doesn't disappear just because the world ends. It just becomes part of the weight we carry. And sometimes on nights like this, when the wind howls and the rain falls hard, that weight feels a little heavier. I don't know where tomorrow will take me. I don't know how many more nights I'll spend in this station, listening to the rain beat against the roof, feeling the walls shake with the wind. But I do know one thing. Nothing stays the same forever. Not the world, not the dead, and not us. Stay sharp, stay moving, and if you hear me, keep holding on. Until next time, stay safe, stay alive. This is Adam Carter, broadcasting from Station 98.3, for the last time. I always knew I wouldn't stay here forever. We can't afford to get too comfortable in this world. And now, I've got a reason to move. I got a call from Daniel. He made it. He's alive. So is that mutt of his. The relief I felt hearing his voice, I don't think I can put it into words. He said he's near Boston now with a group called the Beacon Collective. Says he knows someone there and he thinks he can get in. More than that, he thinks he can get me in too. It's a risk, I know that. But after all the days we've talked, after all the stories we've shared, I believe he's a good man. And I believe in taking a chance on something better. So I'm going. I don't know how many of you are still out there, still listening, but if you are, thank you for keeping me company, for reminding me that even when everything falls apart, we're still here. We're still human. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that survival isn't just about running and hiding. It's about choosing to keep going, to keep trying, even when the odds are stacked against you. It's about finding people you can trust and holding on to them. Keep your head on a swivel, watch your corners. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. But don't let that stop you from looking for the good things too. They're still out there. One, and maybe it can do the same for someone else. If you're passing through, if you need shelter, if you need a way to reach others, this place is yours now. Use it. Speak into this mic and let people know you're out there. That would make me happy. This is Adam Carter, signing off. Goodbye.